Allow, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to call the Greenville County Council regular meeting for February 4th, 2025. I'd like to call it to order. And before we get started, Chairman Blunt had to leave, had a family emergency. So if we pray, remember his family and Chairman Blunt in your prayers. Ms. Long.
Father, thank you for this day, Lord, this beautiful day that you have given us, Lord. And I pray right now that you would please be with the Blunt family, Lord, in their emergency, Lord, and please wrap your arms around them. You know the needs there. Please be with them and touch them and heal the situation, Father. Thank you for each member in this congregation here tonight that have came and give of their time. Thank you for the taxpayers, the citizens of this county. Thank you for all the council members. Thank you for the staff and everyone associated with what it takes to every day give their best for Greenville County. Please be with us tonight, and as we look at all these situations, give us the wisdom in the book of James, verse 5, chapter 1, where it says that you give us wisdom liberally when we ask for it, Lord, and we ask for that wisdom tonight. Please be with every family here. We ask it in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If you would, join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion for approval of the minutes for the January 21st, 2025 regular county council meeting.
So move.
Appearances. Is that next?
Call for vote.
Oh yeah, we need a vote. Hey, now this is my first at this. I'm a little nervous. Not a little. I'm sweating. I'm sweating.
No worries.
But yeah, need the vote on the approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, the appearances. Ms. Stone.
Mr. Chairman, your first speaker is Audrey Pazin. Her topic is 11A2, Council Rules.
Ms. Patterson. And I'm supposed to say your name and address, correct?
Good evening. My name is Audrey Passon. I live at 136 Old Altamont Ridge Road in Greenville, Paris Mountain. I want to say first how pleased I was to observe on the live stream a great deal of the process you went through in your committee looking at your rules. It was thoughtful, deliberative. You spoke, you discussed, you argued, you disagreed, you agreed, you found places to come together, all really part, in my opinion, of what deserves to be in a deliberative process. And I just want to say, and I'm going to speak on a couple of rules specifically, I want to say this, though, one thing always to keep in mind, that the rules, any rule, you should ask this question: why are we having a rule? Why do we want to adopt this rule? And in that answer, ask this very other important question: how will it affect my customers? These people are the customers. Please don't give away your customers' rights to have things be as they would ask you to make them be. And that includes particularly, in my segue to Amendment 4, which is the one that says, how many of us have to vote to meet a threshold? I'm sorry, number 3, Amendment 3. What's the threshold to either hire or fire someone we call an employee of the council? And I'll say this, the question you talked about was cause versus no cause. I have no judgment about anyone's performance to date. I say this as a matter of pure procedure and constitutional authority that should not be lightly delegated away. Don't hamstring yourselves. Don't create an artificial threshold. State law doesn't require it, and you shouldn't adopt it. To that point, Mr. Fant said something that I need to correct. He said, to this non-exact quote, and I apologize, something to this effect: Why should we take the few 3 or 4 employees that we entrust to do the planning for the county and make them worry? If those people are doing county planning, there's a real need to revisit how you operate under state statute called Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act. Okay, 6-29-310, etc. I won't go into detail. Planning belongs to them, not your employees. Secondly, and more detail, amendment number 2 says, when can we ask questions of employees? The word that is in your amendment is for investigations. You shouldn't have to have an investigation. You should be able to ask for information because it makes sense. You're curious. It's relevant. It's useful. So it should be inquiries and investigations without any restraint. I think I have to wrap up, and I'll just say I appreciate what you're doing, and I'd like to be helpful, to have great rules. So it works for these guys, your clients. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paisley. Next, Ms. Stone.
Mr. Chairman, your next speaker is Diane Vreeland. Her topic is 11A2, Council Rules.
I'm supposed to ask name and address.
Yes, it's Diane Vreeland, 413 Heather Falls Lane, Simpsonville. Just off the cuff, since I had the bubonic plague and missed all of January, on behalf of Greenville County Republican women, I'd like to welcome Kelly and Kurt and Frank and Gary to the council. We look forward, as we have in the past with the rest of you, have wonderful discussions and hopefully work together. First, I am asking council to please eliminate Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedures and adopt Robert's Rules of Order as the format for all future parliamentary procedures. Doing so will assist in council's effort in being more transparent, as the public on the whole is more familiar with Robert's Rules of Orders. Second, I am asking that you wait and investigate all procedural elements of the rules you are adopting to ensure that said rules are in compliance with all state statutes, which is pretty much what you just did in the meeting that I just sat through before, and I want you to know I appreciate that. To move hastily would be detrimental to council and the citizens of Greenville County. I'd like to hand a copy of my statement to the clerk, so it's part of the public record, and I thank you all.
Thank you. Is that all the appearances, Mrs. Stone?
Yes, sir, we have no other speakers.
Okay, thank you. So our next is public hearings, and I will recognize Councilman Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 6A, Bolt Solar LLC, formerly Project Bolt Fee in lieu of Tax Agreement. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and special source credit agreement between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Bolt Solar LLC with respect to the certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto. Madam Clerk, are there anyone registered to speak?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins, we have 2 speakers in opposition. The first is Audrey Pazin.
Once again, good evening. Audrey Passon, 136 Old Altamont Ridge Road, Greenville, Paris Mountain, on this matter. You know, it's interesting. You're asked to vote on something very consequential. I can't tell you the specific items in it that I would object to, but I would say this. Many of you have never seen this proposal. You don't know what vetting process it has gone through. You don't know what happened in committee that brings it to be recommended. It would be, in my opinion, premature for you, who are many new members, to vote on something, even to bring it forth to third reading, without knowing what it says and what it means. So from a practical standpoint, it's advisable to send it back to committee so you can study it adequately. Your vote is very consequential. These things have dollar impacts, and they have development impacts, and I will speak to that now. The Enabling Act that I referenced before 629, 310 et sec. is very clear. The lawful authority that is given by state law, and I think is a constitutional requirement, makes this type of an ordinance subject to at least some review by your planning commission. To the extent that this agreement will end up on land, or end up on population influence, or have an impact on infrastructure, or law enforcement, or labor force, those are all parameters that are to be considered by your planning commission under state law. The state law is a beautiful, beautiful zone to do very thoughtful work. Unfortunately, in our county DNA, we have bypassed that piece of the equation for many years, and I'm really asking you to pull back from a practice that has not been advantageous. If we were to follow what that state statute says, and we really must, otherwise we risk lawsuits, we would bring this thing, this development question, to planning commission so they could consider it with whatever required secrecy is necessary, because I understand it's a contractual matter. Some of it needs to be kept in confidence. Some of it doesn't, is covered by the FOIA Act in a way that it doesn't get revealed. But even with those constraints, the body at the Planning Commission should be opining, and what they do that's beautiful is they open it up for the public. So there's a due process requirement that's beautifully met, and you do your jobs with the input of the public, with the input of your designated planning commissioners who are your eyes to the future. They're your trusted people who are concerned about the county, the only type of agency that has that requirement attached to it. So they're the right people to have input on this thing and to recommend or not recommend it. And you'll do as you do, but you'll know what they have said. And that wraps that up. Thank you very much.
Forgive me.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins, we have one other speaker, Diane Freeland, in opposition.
Hi again, Diane Vreeland, 413 Heather Falls Lane in Simpsonville. I'd like to speak with you regarding the Project Bolt Philo through the lens of transparency as well as citizen awareness and involvement. It would help the public if you placed on the agenda itself or in the backup online of the agenda a short synopsis of the Philo being voted on so that the public does not have to read through 50 pages of legalese, which I have done and I'm not being paid for, to figure out what exactly is being offered and voted on. You could include the following: percentage the company would be paying, i.e. 4%, 6%, location of the business, the type of business, number of employees, number of years the Philo is in effect for, and anything else you may deem important. I had the opportunity to meet with Scott Case, County Auditor in Elizabeth, wherein we discussed various aspects of county government, which included Philos. I honed in on what the cost was to the county by giving a lower tax rate. Mr. Case and Mr. Stewart, when he gave his presentation of the GADC, had a common theme, which was essentially that there was no cost to taxpayers because if we did not offer Philos, companies will not come due to the competitive markets in other states. I'm not buying this argument and ask that the council do the math and earnestly take a hard look at all future Philos. I hope you consider my suggestions, and I thank you for any effort in this regard. And I'd like to hand a copy of my statement to the clerk so it's part of the public record. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Collins, we have no other speakers.
Thank you. If there are no more speakers, I declare this public hearing closed.
So we ready to move to item 7, consent agenda?
Still got one more.
We have B and C.
Oh, sorry. I was in a hurry.
Okay.
B and
Sorry.
C.
Mr. Chair, item 6B, Bolt Solar LLC, formerly Project Bolt, Multi-County Industrial Business Park Agreement Amendment 2010 Park. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding an ordinance to amend an agreement for the development of a joint county industrial business park, 2010 Park, of Anderson and Greenville counties, so as to enlarge the park.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins, we have no speakers for this item.
If there are no more public speakers, I declare this public hearing closed.
Item C, due to the recent concerns in regards to the verbiage of the public hearing notice, this public hearing for the project audit has been canceled. Now we're ready for number 7, correct? Consent agenda.
Take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman McCahey, ordinance at third reading.
Item 8A, zoning ordinances. Charlie Zulu 2024, tag 071, property located on North Rutherford Road and Pine Drive, requesting rezoning from R-Tech S to AG. I move adoption of the ordinance at third reading.
All in favor? So we're about aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so carried.
Item 8A2, Charlie Zulu 2024, tag 023, property located at 6615 Bethel Church Road and Augusta Road, requesting rezoning from R-Tech Mike Alpha to Sierra 1. I move adoption of the ordinance at third reading.
All in favor of this item? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Item B, we'll recognize Councilor Collins.
Bolt Solar LLC, formerly Project Bolt, fee in lieu of tax agreement. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and special source credit agreement between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Bolt Solar LLC with respect to certain economic development property in the county whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto.
All in favor of this, item B, let it be stated by aye.
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to hold this until the next meeting, because after reviewing it, I have some serious questions about the number of jobs that it's going to provide, the projected investment, and just some of the terms. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't read this as quickly as some, but I did read through it, and I have some serious questions I'd like to ask the council to consider holding it to give me 2 weeks to confer.
I would be against holding because I have spent extensive amount of time on this, and it's can I tell what this is? This is land almost in Lawrence County. It's 400 acres, no sewer, no water. It's got a natural barrier. Right now, the county gets $800 property tax. With this FILO being able to get the power lines, they'll attach right onto the power line. With the FILO, the county gets $221,000. You can verify that, but it's over $200,000. So we're getting more money. It doesn't have any jobs, doesn't have any traffic, doesn't have any maintenance, doesn't cost and what else it does, it brings to the people who own this property, they'll get a little revenue.
Okay.
But the most important thing, it preserves our property, because it's not going to be a subdivision, not going to be a commercial application. When the 40 years lease is up, is to come in to either release or sign a new lease, or to tear it down and move on.
Is that $220,000 per year?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's exactly some of the information I needed. Thank you for that clarification. And I think the public needs to hear that kind of stuff too, because we need to shed the light on these things, that if they're good or not good, and we need that discussion. Thank you.
I think it's one of the, it's outside the realm of our normal FILOs. GADC doing a great job of doing this and being able to provide extra income for these two families who are retired. And it also going to generate some clean power. And it also preserves property for our grandkids. So,
I withdraw my motion.
are we ready to vote? All in favor with the word aye? Aye. Those opposed? So carried. Mr. Collins?
Bolt Solar LLC, formerly Project Bolt, Multi-County Industrial Business Park Agreement Amended 2010 Park. An ordinance to amend an agreement for the development of a joint county industrial and business park 2010 park of Anderson and Greenville counties so as to enlarge the park.
You hear the motion before you. All in favor by the word aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Ordinance 9, second reading, Mr. Collins.
Item 9A, Greenville-Anderson Multi-County Industrial Park Agreement Amendment, 2010 Parks, Project OTT, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of the First Amendment to that certain First Amendment to agreement for development of a joint county industrial and business park by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Anderson County, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto.
Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins, do you happen to have a motion to go along with this, that initial motion? I think this has to go back to finance.
I think it needs to go back to Finance Committee.
Yes,
is what-
sir.
Yeah, okay. I make a motion that does go back to Finance Committee.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Let's go back to finance. All in favor of going back to finance?
Aye.
Aye.
So this motion will be going back to finance. Ordinance is at first reading. Can Councilman Shaw, can he hear us? Is he with us?
He was online.
Yeah, I saw him earlier.
Oh,
Steve, are you with us? Steve, are you with us?
He's been up there forever.
There he is. Mr. Shaw, your ordinance at first reading? Mr. Shaw, can you hear us? I don't think he's hearing us.
Mr. Chairman, on Mr. Shaw's behalf, I'd happy to present for first reading a requirement to broadcast to all the public.
Not sure you can hear me.
Steve, go ahead, Mr. Councilman Steve Shaw. Can you go ahead and, your ordinance at first reading, sir? Steve, Councilman Shaw.
Yes.
Can you
Can you hear me?
Can.
Do you want to present your item for first reading?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, you would like to, can you present?
If he can't read it, one of us can read it for him.
Yeah, go.
Ms. Seaman?
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Mr. Shaw, I present for first reading a requirement to broadcast to the public all county council and standing committee meetings. Mr. Chairman, on Mr. Shaw's behalf, I'd happy to present for first reading a requirement to broadcast to all the public.
We're going to refer this to the communication.
How about now?
Yes.
What
We're
if
going to refer this to the Communication and Government Affairs Committee. So that's.
Do you want to present your item for first reading?
An ordinance to require transparency for all Greenville County Council and committee meetings and broadcasting meetings to the public.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Mr. Shaw, I present for first reading a requirement to broadcast to the public all county council and standing committee meetings. Mr. Chairman, on Mr. Shaw's behalf, I'm happy to present for first reading a requirement to broadcast to all the.
Turn off the audio, please, for that.
Yeah.
We're going to refer this to communication. Yes.
We good. We're just going to refer Chairman Councilman Shaw's ordinance to the Communication and Government Affairs Committee. All right. We can move on to our committee reports, and I'd like to recognize Chair Lady Liz Seaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Committee of the Whole, I move to appoint Donald Dufala, Joe Farmer, William Lloyd, Yvonne Matthews, Chris Prince, Kenneth Riley, Thomas Sanders, and Arthur Young to fill 8 vacancies on the Board of Tax Assessment and Appeals.
So we need to vote on that, correct? So all in favor of those 8 names, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next, Ms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the committee, I move to appoint Deja Bostick, LaShawn Lightsey, Dexter Reeves, and Amelia Sanders to fill 4 vacancies on the Human Relations Commission.
You've heard the 4 names. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the final Board and Commission appointment, on behalf of the committee, I move to appoint Gary Collins to fill the council member seat on the Greenville Area Development Corporation.
The appointment of Gary Chambers. All in favor? Word aye.
Aye.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, for the approval of county rules, this item was held in committee.
All right, we are down to administrators' report.
Mr. Chairman, actually, Councilman Shaw had asked some questions. I noticed he's not on here anymore, so I can hold this till next time for you and then go over it. I can go over it right now. It's totally up to y'all.
Let's go over it.
Pleasure of the board. Let's go.
All right, let's see. There we go. All right. I'll just read kind of what his question was and then let you know what the correct answer is. He's asked about the new county square buildings are undergoing work in the breezeway between north and south buildings. Is it warranty work, timeline, cost, covered by bond, etc.? The work you see being performed between the north and south buildings is for the replacement of the PTFE, the material covering the metal framework connected between the 2 buildings. The metal framework is being modified with 62 Diablo connections to strengthen the structure. The metal structure will be painted prior to the installation of the new material covering. The scaffolding you see is for safety while the work is being performed overhead. All of the labor and materials is paid for by the building contractor. The contractor has indicated a mid-May completion date. The cost is being covered 100% by DPR through subcontractor default insurance. The original contractor or subcontractor that put the structure in did not do a good job fitting the material and everything, and of course we identified that early on, and the general contractor is paying for it. So the question number 2, the parking garage that formerly had council vanity spaces now has cones and tape. What is the plan for that area? The cones and tape is gone. Basically, we had to mark it off, block it off while we took up the reserved painting on the concrete. They are all handicap parking at this point. Any updates to the I'm going to come back to number 3. Number 4, rumors of council expanding space adjacent to his existing footprint, council chambers, committee rooms, etc. This is just a rumor. Any plans to move offices or departments and services? We have one area that it's always been planned to keep them together, but they had moved part of their operation quite a little while ago, elections office. So they'll be moving the other, I believe, 8 employees, so they're all together in one location over McAllister Square. Status of manned parking attendants directing traffic inside the parking garage. We have one attendant. We have a contract with Pivot Parking for, county owns 2 garages, for those of you that aren't familiar. Over at the library is one, over here is another one. And the attendant does provide some direction for people coming in and out at high traffic times, and that varies depending on day of the week, time of the some some janitorial services throughout the building. They throw down salt if it gets icy in the winter, things like that. We'll reevaluate like we always do on things like that. Is it needed? How much it's needed? And, what's the future plans? Any plans to provide a weatherproof walkway from the parking garage to the county buildings? Well, there actually is, pretty much if you stay underneath. If you venture outside, it gets you to the building. Now, when you go around the front of the building, there is no covering except for the overhang. There was never any plan. This building was approved by county council years ago, the design and all that. I mean, if that's something that this body would like us to look at, we can, but it would be very expensive, quite frankly, to do that. And now going back to question number 3, he asked any updates on the progress of the build-out from Rockall Point. I did provide some slides for us. It'll be on all your monitors and on these screens here. These are just some overhead shots of the property that shows you what we have the undertaking right now. It's a little over about 32 acres that are under development as we speak. And these are just various shots. That's along House Street, and that's coming into County Square as we see. It's quite a big site, quite frankly. And it's going through go back to that one. You see some roadways coming together. That's what will be connecting up here shortly. This shows you what the next phase is. The green is the roads being put in. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. If it stays in the 70s, we'll get a lot of work done going forward. So the green would be the next piece that's put in. Part of it's in place already, and they're working to get the next phase in there. The red is the current entrance to the building, and then purple is future. And then as we move forward to the next slide, this is what they're hoping to accomplish between April and June of this year. So you see most of the green is in place, and then they'll be doing the purple, which is be under construction. And then from June through July, more of the road work is complete, and hopefully by October, all the roads themselves proper will be in place. Now, while that's happening, they're also doing installation of the conduit, which is all the underground utilities for data and electric. There's quite an elaborate network underneath there because of the demands for fiber and, of course, electricity going forward. And then this is the storm and sanitary sewer and water being put in also. So there's a lot of activity out there by different crews going on. This is all a part of the development. And then the grading, down toward the traffic circle, as you look out the front of the building to your right out there, there's been about 1 million cubic yards of dirt moved to get this site more level. There was quite a drop off. Where we're sitting actually was 25 feet lower than the upper corner, and so they're trying to bring it more to a gradual slope, which works much better for retail businesses. We still have some improvements that have been held off on our side for the development, sewer and everything else to go in. Right out front, there'll be a new drive that comes in, but this is the handicap spots that will be very close to the corner of the building out front, right by the Veterans Memorial, and there'll be about 6 spots for handicapped individuals to park, but more importantly, it's a drop-off for people to swing in there and drop off. They don't have to go in the garage. They can just drop them off. This is something that's been asked for a lot, and it's been planned, but because of all the other movement out there and everything, we couldn't do it quite yet. So hopefully this will happen. I think they're looking to get this done by late spring, early summer. And so it'll be a nice drop-off. In conjunction with that, we'll have the drop box for tax payments. When people just want to swing through here after hours or even during hours, they can swing through and just drop it right in the box. We'll have two. We're going to put one out in the garage also. For those people that don't see this one or come in a different way, they can just go throw it in the box and we'll get it so they won't have to come in the building. But this is actually will be at the drive that goes right out in the front of the building, and they can swing in there, pull off, drop it off. The other part is the plaza. That's to the left of the south building. There again, nothing has been able to be done until the underground stuff is put in place and the road work is put in place. But there's this kind of park setting that's scheduled to be done right out front there, and to kind of tie the rest of County Square together with the Veterans Memorial and all that in the front. Right now, it's just dirt. And so this has been all part of the plan from the get-go. And it just kind of separates us a little bit from the rest of the development, but then it also ties it in with the rest of the development. Because we are the basically the draw for the site. And then the developer, this shows you right there kind of what their plan is. That's up to them. That's not county. They're the ones responsible for the buildings and retail and all that. And currently they have about 53 buildings 53 spaces under lease. And they're in the process of negotiating with a couple more. And then they're in the process also of looking to sell some of the pads to multifamily. And then we've identified a very strong market for townhouses. And actually, that's where the true value for the land is, because they can put a number of those in a small area, and they'll pay some very high prices for that. So that actually is looking to be done out here on the far south. I'm not going to say east or west. I think it's east end of the property, or I'm sorry, west of the property. In a small area, less than an acre, that can command some very high prices. So that's coming into play also. Their projections now are that the land themselves will generate a little over $110 million, which we do share some of that with the developer as part of the development agreement. But the interesting thing is the projection now for the valuation, which translates into taxes, is over $30 million per year. And keep in mind, the county retains all of that for the first 30 years, and that's to pay us back for any costs associated with development. Development pays for development. And so that's coming in very strong, and we're hopeful that it will continue. They also are looking at some office space, and this is just one of their conceptual drawings that they're in the process now negotiating with 3 different companies to lease a floor. It's not going to be to one tenant, which they're very happy about. They like to split it up. But you notice a lot of the buildings will have the retail on the bottom floor, on the first floor. And that's where the market has moved. You know, a few years ago, retail was dead. But now switched totally back, and office is struggling. So it's just depending on the commercial market and everything. But they're looking forward to getting going with that. And then talking about the townhomes and condo and pad sales, this shows you right here the area that they're looking to do that. We do not own this little piece right here. There is a little corner that we don't own, but we own everything else there. So that here's a drawing of the completed development. Very attractive buildings, a very good use of the space. That concludes my report.
Do we have any questions for the administrator?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Mr. Administrator, could you report to us the cost of the electric chargers in the parking garage as we talked about, please?
Yes, there's 34 chargers in the garage. It costs us $1,800 a month for electricity.
So currently, the people using those chargers do not pay, correct?
That's correct.
So over the year, is it fair to assume that we're giving away $21,600?
Well, you basically, people have gotten electric.
And is there any reason we don't put a gas pump in?
Gas pump.
Just, I'd like to have a gas pump.
No, but this has actually been county's practice for many, many years. We were one of the first ones in downtown Greenville to have a electric charging station and we have never charged for it. Now, if that's something.
How much would it cost to install a fee charger?
Well, we can price those out when we put these in originally. Keep in mind, the county wasn't going to own this building, the parking deck, to start with. County council came back after it was under construction and then decided it would make more financial sense to own it. So a lot of this was already planned prior to the county.
Great. Then.
Now, getting to your answer, there's the original cost to put these in was $15,000 per charging station for the ones you could charge. We installed all 34 for $30,000. So it was a cost issue at the time. It's going to take a lot of $1,800 a month to catch up with that $450,000, $500,000 delta that we saved.
Could you do an analysis for me based on current electric rates, what we'd have to charge to recoup that cost in, say, a 5 or 10 year period? Could you get me those numbers, please, if we were to install fee chargers? Because
We can.
In my heart, I'm sure the public sentiments behind me on this is we shouldn't be subsidizing, especially the most affluent citizens in our county who own those vehicles. Thank you.
Well, if I could answer that, a number of the people using the chargers are actually county employees. So I don't know that, they're going to be the affluent citizens of the county.
Well, that would even make the citizens even more angry if you ask me. So I'll be making a motion to get rid of those or turn them off after your presentation to me on recouping those costs.
Mr. Administrator, would you, as part of that analysis, could you just also report to us on the city garages and whether or not the city charges for their electric stations? Thank you. I'm asking for information.
That's good information. So we have a comparison to say, hey, if they're charging, then we have a comparison for that. I believe it.
Any other questions for the administrator?
No, thank you.
We have any requests or motions by our council members?
I don't believe any have been filed.
I don't know of any either. All right. So we have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Motion adjourned.